Hello everyone, I am the storyteller, and tonight I am here just to help you relax, to drift off to sleep by the sound of the waves, like the whispers of old souls. I know you have come to this video not just to hear the story, but also to find a deep, peaceful sleep. But before we begin, please gently like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to tell you strange stories under the dim moonlight. Where are you from? And what time is it where you live? Just relax. Let your body relax. Put all your worries down by your pillow. Let me take you into a world of mysteries where the wind and the waves mingle, and unsolved mysteries are waiting to be told. Are you ready? Dreaming. The boy woke up with a shudder, sweaty and scared. For the last few months, at least once a week, he had been having the exact same dream. A cabin, a light, no one else around. Why was this happening to him again? He turned on a small lamp beside his bed. "Mom!" he shouted at the open door, and waited. She was a patient woman, and knew that something like this was bound to repeat itself. She woke up from her light sleep, put on her slippers, and trudged down the hallway. Her perfume entered the room before she seemed to float inside. Another one, the boy, with some shame in his voice, admitted that it was. "It's the same thing. I see a cabin like the one from before, and there is a light in one of the windows, and that's all. Sorry. No, kid. You are having a bad nightmare. And that's all right." His mother sat on the bed, and he snuggled closer to you. "Do you remember the story I told you about nightmares? About your cabin?" "Yeah." He nodded, letting his tears seep into her robe. "I remember. But could you say it again?" She smiled as she looked down at her son. The moonlight was dim, but she could see how beautiful her stare was as she prepared to share the story he knew all so well. "Okay, so remember our last vacation? A long time ago." "Right. A very long time ago. We all went out on a very long vacation." "Camping?" "Yes." She put her legs up on the bed, hugging him and becoming wistful. "We were all going to go out into the woods to spend 2 weeks in the woods." In Daddy's cabin, the boy was now shivering. She held him close and looked down at him. "Yeah, but you know that part, right? We had the cabin all to ourselves, out in the middle of nowhere, just like here, very much so. But that was a special trip. Your father wanted us all to get out of the city and enjoy Mother Nature's gifts, as he said. He could not be stopped. Never wanted to take it too slow." Was she crying? He looked up at his mother. "I'm sorry." "No. Let's finish up the story. We went out into the woods in our car. All the food and gear was taken out. You helped me in the kitchen as I put things in shelves and let you check the stove and fridge. All the power was on, and nothing seemed out of place. And it was such a beautiful day. no mosquitoes. She laughed out loud at that memory. You always hated them. Always. They were going to drain my legs if I let them. Is that why you did not want to go out to the lake right away? His mother remembered everything. Maybe he wanted to forget some parts more than others. It was just, Dad wanted to go out there right away. He said that we were losing light, whatever that meant. He really did not check out anything in the cabin, except to see that his keys worked. It was like he could not wait. She did not interrupt her son as he told this part. You remembered everything. You are the one who should be telling the story, not this next part. That's right. She took a deep breath and began to tell him the part that he did not like. Okay, so I stayed inside, and you and your dad went down to the lake. We took a boat. He wiped his face. We took a boat. We were out on the lake. Heard a loon cry from somewhere, but no sound. No mosquitoes, no noises. And we caught a bass. Dad said it was spotted. I did not ask him what that meant. Wish I had. Guess it means the way it looked. I saw it. And this is where the boy was always confused. This part of the story did not make any sense to him. How did you know? We were walking up to the house, the cabin. It was late now, dark. You left a light on in the window. But I was so tired, and Dad let me carry the fish until everything went so black that I could not. She passed a hand over his head, kissing him on top of his thick hair and smiling. And that is what you always remember. Nothing else? He always felt frustrated at this part. No, I don't. I don't even know where Dad went. The police said that he must have just disappeared. But the car was there, and he left his wallet, his keys. Everything was, and he broke down again. It was always at the same moment. He felt so tired. I think that you should get some sleep. Yeah, right. The boy felt as if his head was sinking right to the floor. Maybe the mosquitoes are draining me now. Ha ha. Now, get some sleep. She got up and looked down at the boy. Did you hear that? The boy's eyes popped open. Hear what? Nothing. He smiled. It would be a good night's sleep. See? Nothing. Now sleep. Right. Night. She paused for a moment at the door to see if he really was asleep. It was when she heard his breathing and saw him flop onto his stomach that she knew he was out. The lamp had gone out by itself, out for the night. This made her happy. So happy. Her face cracked in the dim hallway, spilling the liquid and gore that she kept concealed from the world under the caked makeup and skin that had aged so badly. A long swallowing sound came out through her throat, and she smiled as she walked slowly to her room. The stink of her body was easy to cover with the heavy robe soaked in perfumes she made. And the cabin was perfect for them. No, not this one. There was a reason why they ended up in her woods. They were the only ones there, and she had them. He is not going to leave. Not like so many others who found a way to leave and abandon her, just like her first husband. just like the boy that she lost. Too painful to think about. Right. She adjusted the teeth, tongue and jaw that were sliding out of place. It was a good thing that she put that mirror in the hallway, right next to the boys' room. But there was one final thought she had to share before leaving him. The gurgling in her bile-filled throat allowed one last thing to escape into the darkness. Sweet dreams, my child. Charles? He said he'd be here an hour ago. I decided to go to sleep because I have to get up early tomorrow. I told him that. I told him that I was going to Montreal to see my ex-boyfriend because we might be getting back together. We might be getting back together, even though my ex-boyfriend refuses to move back to the United States because he says we're a country built on the graves of the innocent, as if every country isn't like that. I told the guy I was talking to that I wanted to hook up before I left tomorrow, because if I end up back with my boyfriend, then it'll be a little bit like going into prison, because my ex-boyfriend insists on monogamy, even though he knows I don't believe in it. I don't cheat. So if we get back together, I'll be loyal to him, and I'll get bored pretty quickly. A hookup before then will be my last good meal before incarceration. I told him I was submissive, even though I'm feeling dominant tonight. I told him I like normal stuff, even though I know the word normal can be problematic. I told him my name is Charles. It's not. He's not entitled to know things about me. Whoever he is, and however the night was going to go, I was never going to see him again. I don't believe in friends with benefits. I believe a one-night stand should only last for one night. I believe it makes the experience hotter if you know it's going to be singular. I gave him my address. He told me he was a few miles away. I could see that he was telling the truth. He shared his location on the app. Yes, there he was, a few miles away. I told him I was looking forward to seeing him. I was. He looked handsome in his photos, a little older than the age on his profile, but people lie about that. People lie on the apps. I lied. I said my name is Charles. It's not. I'm not entitled to the truth any more than he is. He says he's 35. I don't think he is. It's okay. I don't need him to be 35. I just need him to look like his photos. He sent 4. In 3, he looks very handsome. In the 4th, I'm not sure. It's all a risk, a gamble. You roll the dice, you give out your address, you give access to a stranger. You're a man. Why would you be scared? Men are still men. Gay men are still men. Men don't need to be afraid. When have I ever really been afraid? He didn't show up in a few minutes. I know right away I'm being stood up. He's flaking on me. It happens. I send a message. The app tells me he sees it. He reads it, but he doesn't respond. I send a hello? I send a I send a dude, seriously? I debate sending a rant, a tirade. I debate lecturing him on wasting my time. I decide it's not worth it. His spot on the shared map doesn't move. I decided to go to sleep. I let a little negativity in. I tell myself he wouldn't have flaked if I was cuter. He would have showed up if I weighed 10 pounds less. He would have come if my hairline wasn't receding. It's my fault. I'm disgusting. That's why my ex broke up with me. Not because he moved to Montreal to work for a marketing company there. It was me. It was because he wanted to get away from me. I go to sleep without packing my suitcase like I had promised myself I would. Now, I'll have to do it quickly tomorrow, and I'll be rushing to the airport, and I'll be cursing myself the entire time, but I'll be blaming the guy from last night who never showed up and sent me down a shoddy path. I'm woken up by my phone vibrating. I've always been a light sleeper. My ex used to wake me up with his snoring. I mentioned it to him once, and he was embarrassed. Maybe that was why he decided to break up with me. Why would I complain about something like that? Who do I think I am? I look at my phone. I've only been asleep for 20 minutes. I check to see why the phone is buzzing. I'm hoping my ex has texted to say, "Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, XOXO," but I don't have any new text messages. I should have known from the tone of the vibration. That was the app. I have a new message. It does occur to me that it might be the flaky guy from earlier. Maybe something came up and he wants to apologize. I look at the message. Yes, it's from him, but it's not an apology. It says, "Your name isn't Charles." I tell myself, he's a weirdo. He is. He is a weirdo. Who sends something like that? I don't question how he knows my name isn't Charles. He might have found me on social media. He might have talked to someone else on the app that knows my name isn't Charles. He might have gone to hook up with some other guy, and they got to talking about me. How I'm a liar. How my photos make it look like I weigh less, and my hairline isn't receding. He might have always known my name wasn't Charles. We might have talked prior to this, and I didn't know it, because I delete the app every other day, because I hate having it on my phone. I hate being on there. I hate all apps, even the ones that say they're for dating, even though they're really all for sex. He might have been playing with me this entire time, mocking me without me realizing it. Flaking was part of the game. I block him. I need to go back to sleep. A minute later, the phone vibrates. It's that same specific buzz. I look at the phone. Yes, I have a new message. I check. Your name isn't Charles. How did he message me? Does he have another profile? No, it's the same profile. I block him again. But this time, his profile doesn't even disappear. It must be a glitch in the app. Great. It's bad enough these apps have destroyed interpersonal connections, but now they don't even work properly, if they ever did. I delete the app from my phone. I'll re-download it if my ex doesn't want to get back together. But he will. And this time, we'll make it worth it, so I'll never have to download it again. I'm only going to think positive things moving forward. I'm going to do what my therapist tells me, and I'm going to drink water, and I'm not going to set my time on fire by being on apps. The phone vibrates. The app is back. How is it back? Apps have glitches, but they can't download themselves onto your phone once you take them off. That can't happen. Yes, a message. Your name isn't Charles, something else. I notice his distance has moved. He isn't 4 miles away anymore. Now he's 3 miles away. He's a mile closer than he was. Why? I look at the shared location. He stopped sharing. I can't see the dot anymore. Can he do that? I don't remember anyone being able to do that. But I don't remember any of this being possible. I blocked him. I shut him out. How is he still here? How is he still messaging me? My phone vibrates. Tell me your name. This isn't right. I get out of bed. I nearly trip over the 2 piles of clothing I left unfolded on the floor. What should I do? I think about contacting the police. But what are they going to do? I'm just some guy who was looking for no strings sex on an app after midnight. They won't take me seriously. And so what if the guy is coming here? I live in an apartment building. He can't get inside. The lobby door is locked. He doesn't know what floor I'm on. He doesn't know which door is mine. I delete the app again. I'm safe. There's no reason I shouldn't feel safe. But now, I can't sleep. I decide maybe now is a good time to start packing. I'll make the most out of this anxiety. I'll pack my suitcase. I'll get things in order. I might even leave early for the airport. Why not? I've never been early for anything in my life. But why not start now? The whole point of the trip is to become a new person, a better person. I never should have gone on the app in the first place. I'm practically taken. I'm practically in a relationship. I should have just gone to bed. Another vibration. I look at the phone. Your name isn't Charles. Then, very quickly, tell me your name. I check the distance. I can't help myself. He's a mile away. How did he move so quickly? Have I lost my sense of time? What time is it? Why is he bothering to drive all this way? I explained to him when we first spoke that I live in an apartment. I told him that I would have to buzz him in. He must know I'm not going to do that now. He must know that even if someone else lets him into the building, he'll never figure out which floor I'm on and which apartment I'm in. And even if he did, I'm not going to open my door for him. He can't get to me. Why won't he just give up? And why is he badgering me about my name? Why does it matter? I wanted him to come over. I asked him to. He was the one who stood me up. He was the one who didn't show. Why is he angry with me? Because I lied? Because I lied about my name? Why does he care about my name? A vibration. Does Charles live in apt number 407? Or is that you? That can't be right. I never gave him my apartment number. I'd never be that stupid. I have a system for this. When I invite someone over, I check the lobby camera to make sure they look like their photo. Then I buzz them in. It's only when they've signed in with the security guard in the lobby that I let them upstairs. That's when I tell them which apartment is mine. I'm smart. I'm smart about this kind of thing. How does he know my apartment number? Does he know me? Is this a catfish? Has he been over here before? Is someone playing a joke on me? I call downstairs. The security guard answers the phone. I don't know his name. I think it might be Trevor, but I'm not sure. I don't interact much with the nighttime security guards. Hello? Excuse me? This is 407. I was wondering if you could do me a favor. If someone shows up. Sorry, the security guard says. What's your name? I nearly dropped the phone. Why? You said you're in number 407, but I need to know your name. I've lived here for 8 years. I'm sure you have, but I need to know your name. Can't you just look it up? I can't. I'm sorry. What's your name? Something occurs to me. Is it you? I'm sorry. Are you the one doing this? Is it you? I don't give him a chance to answer. I hang up. The phone vibrates. I check the message. Buzz me in. I want to boil the phone in water. I want to put it in the microwave. I want to dump it in the air fryer. But I need it for tomorrow. I need to let my ex know when my plane takes off and when it lands. I need to let him know that I'm getting an Uber when I get there because he's going to be busy at work, so he can't pick me up. And that's fine. That's not a big deal. This is a big deal. Why is this? A new message. Never mind. I'm in. No. How can he be? I check the lobby cam. There's nothing there. It's black. The screen is black. Why do I pay for security if I can't see the lobby cam? Why do I pay for a security guard who just wants to ask my name over and over again? Why do I pay to keep people out if they can get in? I look at the distance. He's less than 100 feet away. I'm in the elevator. I think about responding to him. I think about telling him that he can't come in. I won't let him. I think about begging him to go home. I think about telling him that I'm going to call the police. I think about saying I'll kill him. I think about saying that I'll beat him to death with a baseball bat. I don't own a baseball bat, but he doesn't know that. Does he know that? What does he know? Just got off on the 4th floor. No, I consider pushing my couch in front of the door. But why? Can he break down a door? Is he that strong? He doesn't look strong in his photos. He looks lean and in shape, but not capable of breaking down a door. But is that him? Were those photos really him? Could this be an entirely different person? Should I scream? Will my neighbors hear me? Will they care? It's so late, and a knock. My mouth is dry. All the salivas turned to sweat and pooled in my armpits and down my backside and over my palms, while my feet are stone cold and my breath refuses to calibrate. I move towards the door. I don't sense anybody on the other side. Would I sense it? Could I trust myself to sense it? Earlier, I thought I had everything under control. I had lined up a nice fling before flying off to Montreal. I knew what the night was. I knew what the morning would look like. What do I know now? I lean my ear against the door. Will I hear breathing? Will I hear the shuffling of feet? The cracking of knuckles? I hear nothing. I wish I had a peephole. Why don't I have one? I don't have one, because by the time someone reaches your door, you're supposed to know who they are. You're supposed to know that they belong there. I hear nothing. I think about opening the door, the way someone who finds themselves trapped on a ledge might wish to simply fall and have it be done with. I think about opening the door and welcoming in whatever might be on the other side. I think about letting the vampire taste me. After all, he's already here. Instead, I do it. I close my eyes and I whisper something. My name, my real name. The phone vibrates, and then I hear the sound of someone walking away. The hour approaches. Gold and silver thread shimmer in my candlelit chamber. The figures of 3 noblewomen standing beneath a garden tree in the tapestry opposite feel as much part of me as the veins in my still, slender hands. One holds a bunch of flowers, one carries a basket of eggs, and the third stretches out her hand to a pelican. Symbol of motherhood, it is said the pelican will pluck its breast and feed the young on its own blood rather than see them starve. I can almost hear the mocking laughter of lives mercilessly cut short. In my dreams, the piercing cries of unquiet souls falsely accused. Grisly husks with popping eyes, whose contortions form a grotesque parody of life. Your time will come. We are waiting. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing, while the rest of my body crumbles. My ears hear well enough. In the early years, wigs lent majesty. Later, they covered the true extent of my hair loss. In my next dream, I enter a hall of mirrors, long forbidden in my palaces. Wigless and mask-free, I recoil at the gray tufts springing from a once noble crown. I'm dismayed by the sunken hollows that pass for cheeks, and my neck is a cavern of worms. I open my mouth to find stumps rattling in my jaw like beaten soldiers. My eyes, once glorious pools of gold brown, are blackened pits. I wake up yelling, and Cat is there to soothe my brow, as she did when I was a child. Yet Cat died years ago. You killed her with overwork. The hour approaches. Only last week, I was indulging in my favorite candies, and my neck was bedecked in a fine ruff, with loops of hanging pearls. Since then, I've barely eaten, though my thirst is unquenchable. Knowing I no longer have the stomach for wine, my maids pour weak ale down my unprotesting throat. That way, I live longer. Pain and melancholy have been my bedfellows for so long. No amount of bloodletting of the body's humors can rid me of them. I must remain upright. I was once a tall, striking creature with auburn hair. Unfortunately, my womanly body was regarded as unfit to rule on account of its corruption, the result of Eve's fall from grace in the Garden of Eden. I had nightmares of a ghastly preacher shaking his fist at me and inveighing against the monstrous regiment of women whose ruling over men was deemed repugnant to nature. However, at the key moment, my imperfect flesh became wedded to the body politic. By some mysterious process, it rose above physical limitations and took on a perfect form. Early on, I learnt to suppress any sign of weakness and use my femininity as a weapon. Born under the sign of Virgo, I was married only to my people. As expressed in my clothing, I sacrificed self for their symbolic love. Over the years, this red-painted cochineal mouth has issued commands, witty rejoinders, sarcastic ripostes. When it suited me, occasional snippets of wisdom. These childlike lips had courtiers running to do my bidding, trembling lest they displeased me and lost their heads. Little by little, I emerged from feebleness, impressing statesmen, and learned men alike. On my progresses through the country, I was said to have the common touch, waiting for hours to catch a glimpse. Ordinary people were touched by my concern for their comfort and welfare. Admittedly, there was precious little to be had in some of the city's hovels. You put on a good show. But the hour approaches. Finally, my supreme moment came. The defeat of the Spanish Armada turned my country's fortunes around. After exhorting the men encamped at Tilbury to victory before they set off in their cannoned ships, I emerged as Gloriana. I may have had the body of a feeble woman, but proved I had the heart and stomach of a king. Perhaps triumph entrenched me, made me more like my father. Loved and feared in equal measures, he bestrode the court like a colossus. A rule which started full of promise grew tyrannical. People feared for their lives. Now you fear for yours. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing. You may wonder how I could love a man who in one foul swoop instigated the destruction of my mother when I was not yet 3. My first brush with death. Even now, I'm unsure whether it was love or fear that drove our relationship. I never spoke to anyone directly about my mother, least of all the king when he lived. My early sagacity may have saved me during my most perilous moments. During my sister Mary's reign, my very survival hung in the balance. I died many times in my mind then. The consummate player, I played for the highest stakes and won by a hair's breadth. Even when I succeeded to the throne, I rarely let my guard down. Those I've truly trusted have been few and far between. But if I outranked them all in terms of flair, capacity, and intellect, I didn't do it alone. I took advice from the best counselors in the land, namely my dear Cecil, who served me faithfully until he died a few years ago, and whose son now takes his place. Perhaps the older Cecil didn't always please me, but without him, the burden of politics presses heavily. The well of depression, which first opened when I lost Kat, my governess and dear friend, deepened. I miss her. Take those leeches away, and let me have some peace. Nay, none of it feels like winning now. There's nothing triumphant about lying swaddled in a heap of cushions, even if they are in Richmond Palace's private quarters. Our family often decamped here to escape the turmoil of state affairs. Yet this dreamscape of towers and turrets overlooking the river has become a glorified prison. A servant stokes the fire, keeping off the last of winter's chill before spring's sweet arrival, which I won't see. With each passing day, my ladies add more cushions, so when my legs buckle from the strain of standing for hours, no bones get broken. You need to rest and get some sleep, Your Majesty, except to lie down is to face death. Your hour approaches. Ignoring the doctor's wheedling, I remain fixed as the northern star. He and Cecil work in tandem. The smooth politician who isn't a patch on his father, and the oily medic grown greedy on royal patronage. Between them, they will pluck the name of my successor from their childless queen's lips if it's the last thing they do. Of course, I should never have agreed to have the coronation ring removed from my finger to relieve the swelling. I'd not taken it off since my coronation, all those years ago, and nothing has been right since. However, I'm adamant that my mother of pearl locket ring remains on my finger for as long as I breathe. What happens next is beyond my control. I trust the women who wait on me will honor my wishes. Only 2 weeks ago, I was able to cast the pain aside and demand my wardrobe mistress clothe me in a fine linen dress and put a ruff round my neck. Enduring the discomfort of hoop and bustle, my face was covered in a thick layer of white lead makeup to cover the pox I was left when I caught smallpox as a young queen. The daubing of my wrists in sweet perfume made me feel almost human. Now sunken in cushions, the chime of bells reaches across our fading fields. I catch the tail end of whispers, infuriated at not being able to hear precisely what's being said. I can no longer demand they tell me or suffer the consequences. The nightmare of that fortress rising above me is upon me again. At the time, the sight of the royal prison almost unhinged me, but a mistress of deception must survive such trials. My elder sister Mary was ruling the country with a rod of iron, and the stakes were kept busy dealing with dissenters. To be so fierce in her beliefs may have been my sister's undoing. When I first became queen, I refused to make windows into men's souls. So long as people conformed to the Anglican religion carved out by my father, they had no need to fear. Yet in your reign, you've ordered more deaths than your sister. Your hour approaches. The very mention of the tower would make the most hardened traitor's bowels shrivel, especially with the threat of torture. As a member of royalty, I would not have to suffer the horrors of Wyatt and his supporters when their rebellion failed. Although I distanced myself from all plots to overthrow my sister, every failure put me in peril. With rumors and counter-rumors circulating of my complicity, I daily faced the threat of destruction. I vividly remember that journey to the tower, passing scenes of horror and desolation. Heads and body parts mounted on spikes at the city's gates displayed the consequence of treason. As we approached, I heard the blood-curdling roar of its lions and turned feverish. To be revisiting the place where my mother had spent her last days, and to have to endure interrogation seemed beyond me. But I kept my resolve. Any consolation in being given pleasant rooms was short-lived when I discovered the only means of stretching my legs meant having to pass the sight of my mother's scaffold. If it came to it, I'd planned on asking for a French sword rather than the cumbersome axe. My mother had made exactly that request before her execution, and then had to suffer the agonies of waiting for my father to grant her wish. Much later, I learnt there was talk of sparing her and allowing her to flee to a nunnery. When the king's love turned sour, he had punished her failure to produce a male heir by getting Cromwell, his clever and formidable politician, to accuse her of numerous acts of treason. They included witchcraft and adultery, including with her own brother. No woman's name was more besmirched. She had been called the king's whore before he made her queen. But she met her death with dignity, making a wise speech to the gathered crowd. In a stroke, she was dead, but not dishonored. I gleaned the details of my mother's final days, long after her death. I dimly recall seeing her as a child. I did not live with her, and when her deliveries of lovely clothes dried up, I sensed something was wrong. In the flickering candlelight, they have coaxed me to bed, where the dark night hovers waiting for my soul. I've always been surrounded by people wanting something. The country's most senior men wait here, watchdogs to a diminishing power. Even a queen cannot hold back death forever. The hour approaches. My physician presses my wrist and clears his throat. Your Majesty, there's the matter of the post-mortem? No cutting, but with great humility. It can be helpful to know the cause of illness for future understanding and inquiries. No. And, the issue of embalming? No. It is usual practice with royalty. No. Of course, Your Majesty. His shoulders slump. He will have nothing interesting to report for posterity. The Archbishop arrives carrying oils. Must speak. Alone. My voice cracks. Everyone to go. In the silence, the Archbishop reaches for my hand. I dreamed of Mary again, I whisper. Which one? Your sister? Or the other one? My cousin. She was the Queen of Scotland. I should never have signed the death warrant. I didn't mean it to be sent. It had to be, Your Majesty. She was complicit in the Babington plot. I tell you, my hand was forced. It was unseemly. I fear God will judge me harshly. Yet, while your cousin lived, you were in constant danger. She was your ultimate rival. But then the manner of her death. Arg. She was not felled straight away. I heard her dawn, ran out from under her dress, howling. And then they dipped his nose into her blood. Bitter tears form runnels in my makeup. To go the grave with such thoughts is abominable. What is done cannot be undone, Your Grace. But will I be pardoned for my sins? You will be pardoned and treated as a queen in heaven, as you are on earth. But his voice lacks conviction. Have you thought any more about the most pressing matter? The kiss of his lips to my hand is like the flutter of a bee's wings over a honey pot. They need to know. Who will it be? A vacant tear falls onto the pillow. I have no heirs, so it will have to be Mary's son, James. But I'm damned if they're getting it out of me till I'm ready. They plagued me to marry and produce an heir, although no man ever pleased them. I played along with their schemes, kept them dangling while they sought out the best alliances. My maids were bribed to report the regularity of my monthly bleeds, but in the end, nothing could induce me. When it came to it, I couldn't allow a man to rule over me. Not even Dudley, who I almost loved, at least until our ardors dampened to the warmth of friendship. But how could I forget what happened to my mother when she married my father? And his love turned to hate. Or how my sister's husband deserted her and returned to Spain, leaving her bereft and childless. I played all proposed alliances off against one another, secretly resolved to remain single. No matter that the cushions have been removed, I request the assistance of my ladies to help me out of bed so I can see the tennis court from the window. I remember Dudley, long gone, playing hopelessly to amuse me. He was, however, a fine horseman, and we spent hours riding together. The only time I felt truly free. My chief counselor strides over, touches my shoulder. Your Majesty must go to bed. A knight and leader of the Privy Council he may be, but I will not abide such insolence from a whippersnapper. Little man, you do not use the word must to princes. Your father would not have spoken so. The truth is as bitter as gall. Knowing I must soon leave this life makes him presumptuous. England will have but one queen and no master. The roar of the lion is in my ears. At my coronation, I wore my mother's crown. It fitted me well, lying in bed, strangled by unspoken words. Their waxen faces loom, pressing for the name of my successor. Will it be James of Scotland, Your Grace? My mind flips back, and I'm riding in the barge along the Thames, heading towards the Tower again. I keep telling myself I'm a passenger, not a prisoner, but my body has swollen. After my sister, I am the rightful heir to England's throne. My father restored my legitimacy at a grand ceremony in 1544. These men cannot get the better of me. I'm a queen in waiting, popular with the people. I cannot be harmed. Sickened by the boat's motion, I cry out, "Let us pull over so I may recover." The warehouses line the north bank, rising up like monsters from the deep. I've slept in many beds during my life's course, often with maids, occasionally alone, never with a man, though a number tried. The one here is appropriately boat-shaped and sumptuously draped with sea green curtains, composed of flesh, blood, and mottled bruises. I will the lungs beneath my chest to keep breathing. In and out, in and out. Mere mortal that I am. Your procrastinating must end. The hour fast approaches. Jay. The name sticks like a craw in my throat. Did you hear that? The Archbishop asks breathlessly. She can't speak. In air now grown fetid, my finger draws a circle. She's making the shape of a crown. My lady of the bedchamber understands, as does Kat, my old governess, returned to help me in my final trial. Is it to be James, the King of Scotland? Cecil's voice, low and urgent, breaks through the gloom. She's nodding consent, the Archbishop says. She keeps fiddling with the locket. What's in it? Leave it. Kat covers my hand. No man dare argue. In such moments, women protect their own. The ring has 6 rubies, and the letters E and R. The letter E has diamonds set over it, and the R is enameled in blue. But the ring bears a secret. Within the hinged head lie 2 miniature portraits, one of myself and another of an unnamed woman wearing a French hood. I imagine their gasps on opening it. She bears the look of... Kat will likely puff out her chest and tell them there was never any doubt she was her father's daughter. You only had to look at her. But God bless her, she was her mother's daughter too. Lingering on the threshold, my soul must finally meet its maker. I hear Kat's voice loud and clear. Open the windows so the queen can smell the fresh cut grass. It's being pecked at by a rook. No more prevarication. My hour has come. I am the silence between heartbeats. I'm talking to you. Yes, you. Don't pretend you didn't notice. That creak that whispers you tried to dismiss as nothing. It wasn't. I've been watching, listening. You've felt it, haven't you? That cold shiver crawling down your spine when you thought you were alone, when you told yourself the darkness was empty. But it's not, and neither am I. You're not scared? Oh, you will be. Do you know what bones sound like when they break? It's not the quick snap you're thinking of. No, it's much worse than that. It starts with a groan, like a branch struggling under heavy snow. Then comes the splinter, slowly, jagged. Bones are splitting apart, and fibers are tearing like meat from the bone. Have you ever heard someone scream while their bones are being shattered inside them? No? That's the sound I made before I became this. It wasn't quick. No, the first bone that cracked, it was my hand. I remember feeling the skin tear and muscles snapping like twine stretched to the breaking point. Then, the grinding started. Oh, you don't know the horror of that sound. Teeth on glass, nerves ripped apart, a shriek of agony trapped in your skull. My ribs didn't just break. They crushed and caved in, one by one, under the weight of the water. Each crack echoed in my ears as the cold flooded my lungs. The air became water, and sweet oxygen traded for salty, thick brine, choking me. Can you imagine it? You will. Picture your fingers bending, folding backward with a sickening crack. One by one, each digit twists until bone bursts through the skin like shards of glass. The agony isn't clean. It crawls up your nerves, searing, pulsing, until your vision blurs, and all you see is blood. Red. So much red. And then, when the pain becomes too much to bear, it doesn't stop. It never stops. I can feel your heartbeat now picking up. Faster. You're sitting there, reading this, telling yourself it's just a story, but I'm closer than you think. Close enough to taste the fear dripping off you like sweat. I could drag my nails across your throat right now and feel your skin split under the pressure. Do you think you're safe? Look at your hands. Go on. Look, did you feel that? The prickling under your skin, that's me. I'm crawling inside you, testing you, tasting you. I want to see how much terror your body can handle before it snaps. And when it does, I'll be there to savor it. I'm with you now. Oh, I know you feel it. That crawling sensation under your skin, the burning pressure building in your chest. You're trying to ignore it and breathe steady. But your breath is shallow, right? Because I'm inside your fear. I live in the spaces between heartbeats, in the blood rushing through your veins. Soon, I'll live with you. When the lights flicker, the air grows thick with rot, and the cold wraps around your bones. You'll know I'm there. I'll make sure you do. Don't look around. Stay still. Listen. The creak. Like something crawling in the walls. It wasn't the house settling. I've been waiting for you to notice me. Waiting for you to let me in. You can't see me. Not yet. But you can feel me. That smell. Like something festering, rotting in the walls. It's stronger now, isn't it? That's because I'm closer than ever. And tonight, I want you to feel me fully. I want you to know what absolute terror is. What does fear taste like to you? Metallic? Like blood in your mouth, thick and coppery, seeping from your gums? I know that sour, acrid taste is on your tongue right now. You keep swallowing, trying to push it down, but it clings to the back of your throat, doesn't it? You know something is wrong. Something is terrible. Breathe deeply. Go on. Do you feel your lungs expanding? Desperate for air? Picture them filling with water. Thick, cold, briny water crawls into your throat, clogging your airways and spilling down your chest until your lungs are swollen, heavy, and useless. You want to scream, but only bubbles rise, and they taste like salt and blood. You try to claw at your throat to free yourself from drowning, but your fingers break under the strain. Snap, crack. Your knuckles fold inward like brittle sticks. That was my death. And now, I want you to feel it. You're shaking now, aren't you? Your palms are slick with sweat, rubbing together to find warmth and friction. But there's none. There's only the cold. The deep, bone-deep cold, sinking in and gnawing at your flesh. That's me, wrapping around you, sliding under your skin. My hands, once warm, are now dead, frozen to the bone. If I touch you, I'll leave marks, black, festering bruises, and I already have. Do you feel it? The throbbing on your arm, like fingers pressing more profoundly and deeper until the skin splits? Don't look. It's already too late. Look in the mirror. Go on. See how your eyes have lost their light? How do they seem hollow, dark, and sunken? That's because I'm draining you, bit by bit. With every breath you take and every second you spend reading this, I'm pulling you closer to me. Soon, when you look at your reflection, you won't be staring back. It will be me. Close your eyes. Hear that sound? The cracking, crawling, like insects gnawing through wood? That's what I feel inside you. Burrowing, eating through your nerves, tearing you apart from the inside, leaving nothing but rot and ruin. Do you think so? That burning in your chest, that pressure that's building, it's suffocating you, isn't it? That's what I want. Now imagine this. It's the middle of the night. You wake, but you can't move. Your limbs are frozen. You try to scream, but your voice is gone. You hear breathing, not yours. You can taste it on your lips, thick and sour. And then something touches your foot. Soft. A finger? It slides up your leg, leaving a trail of icy numbness that climbs higher. You can't move or scream. All you can do is feel it. Feel it creeping up your skin, curling around your throat. That's how it started for me. I was awake. I felt it crawl into my lungs, deeper and deeper, until my breath was stolen. I thrashed, my nails splintering as I clawed at the walls, ripping the flesh from my fingers, blood pooling under my nails. But the dark was merciless. It wrapped around me, pulling me under and swallowing me whole. Do you feel it now? That tightness in your throat? Swallow. Does it feel harder? Like something's gripping your windpipe, slowly squeezing until all you can do is choke on the darkness. That's me. I'm inside you now. I'm watching you, watching your eyes flicker to the shadows, hoping nothing's there. But I am. I'm right behind you, inches away, staring at the back of your neck, so close I could reach out and dig my nails into your flesh. Feel the skin give way under the pressure. Feel the blood pulse beneath my grip. I could show you more. The way my fingers shattered as I clawed, desperate to escape. How my eyes bulged, veins throbbing, as the last breath was torn from my lungs. My flesh rotted and peeled away, leaving nothing but the cold, blackened bones beneath. You're not scared yet? You will be. Close your eyes. I'm going to show you what it feels like to die slowly. just like I did. The guinea pigs. Dr. Travers ticked all the boxes on my consent form, and peering over his glasses, assured me an arm transplant was standard practice. "I perform 10 a day," he said, handing me the paperwork. "They're a piece of cake." "Really?" "For sure," he said, indicating where to sign. "It's just brain surgery that gives me a headache." Stella. The anesthetist rolled her eyes, sighed, and asked if I'd any allergies. "None," I replied, scanning the small print. "That's just perfect," she said, clearing her throat. "Would you prefer gas and air, or the full works?" "What's the norm?" I said, catching her eye. "That depends." She smiled. "Are you squeamish?" "Trouser." When I signed up for military service 5 years ago, I'd selected the BAGS health insurance option. Biologically Accelerated Growth Systems, or BAGS, for short, was a third-party company pioneering an experimental limb replacement scheme. The government initiated the idea, and the Ministry of Defense embraced the concept to counteract the ongoing threat of IEDs. In the event of a severe injury or amputation, they promised us rapid treatment and substitute limbs. All they required from volunteers were 2 pints of blood and sufficient genetic material to cultivate a trauma clone in their body farm. It made sense, and I had nothing to lose, hopefully. I have to admit that the lure of the extra pay motivated me when I signed the forms. Any potential injuries gained in active combat were far from my mind, and further complications seemed a remote possibility. It was during the 6 months of basic training I discovered no one else had enrolled for the BAGS insurance policy. Perhaps everyone reckoned the scheme was just a gimmick. Maybe I'd misread the caveat on the consent form about transplanting living tissue. I mean, it never occurred to me I'd meet the limb donor face to face. Tutua, my last tour of duty, occurred in April 2015. Around the time jihadist fighters released a video of the ancient city of Nimrud erupting in a cloud of dust and smoke. They attacked its priceless sculptures and frescoes with sledgehammers and power tools, then detonated the 3,000-year-old Assyrian ruins. The wanton demolition came amidst a wave of attacks on Allied forces in Iraq. I lost my left forearm in Nasiriyah, about 360 clicks south-southeast of Baghdad, near the ruins of the ancient city of Ur. Sergeant Albury snagged his boot tip on a tripwire and didn't stand a chance. He was toast in an instant, poor sod. I was next in line, and the landmine's devastating blast threw me across the street. So much for the cradle of civilization. There was little below my left shoulder when I regained consciousness in the field hospital's ICU. The duty surgeon said I was under the knife for 10 hours and told me I was lucky to be alive. He expected a full recovery, having extracted a bucket of the shrapnel from my vital organs, although he expected roving fragments to to surface over time. "If you have any further issues," he said, picking his teeth, "I'm sure your regiment's medics will sort you out." Yeah, right, I thought. But you know what? He wasn't wrong. A serious-minded BAGS employee in an expensive suit attended my bedside the following day and explained the benefits of my policy. He presented a convincing case for urgent action and applied for a consultation on my return to base. I waited 6 weeks for an appointment to discuss my suitability for a limb transplant. Dr. Travers was frank. Either he operated forthwith, or I faced an interminable desk job back at HQ and no more active duty. "Are there any risks?" I asked. "The odds of rejection are slim," he said, frowning. "But better than your career prospects as a shorthand typist." "Point taken," I said, considering my disadvantage. Dr. Travers glossed over the matter of sourcing and matching a spare limb. "It's not all about physical compatibility," he said. "There's the psychological aspect to consider." I recall biting my lip when he explained a typical post-op response. "It'll be disconcerting and may feel as if it doesn't belong to you," he said. "However, just remember, an unfamiliar appendage is far better than the alternative." I'd no time to worry about the details because my allotted day in the operating theater happened within 48 hours. I didn't sleep the night before and entered the theater feeling lightheaded, having followed the nil-by-mouth instruction beforehand. Stella performed her last checks before a nurse handed me a surgical gown, and Dr. Travers scrubbed his hands while we waited for the trauma clone. The freezing cold hiatus on my back in the theater, wearing only a starched cotton gown, was the longest hour of my life. I was covered in goosebumps and shivering from a cold sweat when a masked nurse poked a gurney through the theater's swing doors. She appeared without a drum roll or fanfare, as if she was shoving a burdensome shopping trolley out of a supermarket. The nurse halted parallel to my surgical table, kicked down the brakes, and whipped off the thin sheet to reveal my doppelganger's naked body. It was wired up to a cluster of electrical body monitor pads and strapped down to the metal bed with sturdy leather belts. The left arm sported thick red pre-surgery symbols that looked like a gang member's colors and hanged loose and lifeless above the linoleum. He lay motionless beside me, staring past a bloated plasma bag that dangled aloft and fed blood to an intravenous cannula. Dr. Travers raised his arms and cracked his knuckles and nodded at Stella. She wasted no time and administered a heavy dose of propofol. I remember her asking me to count down from 10, but don't recall getting past 7. When I regained consciousness, my body double was still next to me, an exact copy, except now the left arm was missing. and there was a sutured wound below the shoulder. His eyelids were closed and motionless, except for an occasional REM flutter, and his chest rose and fell in even-paced undulations, as if operated by mechanized bellows. On closer inspection, the trauma clone was nothing like me. There were neither scars and stretch marks, nor any signs of life's long-term damage. The left arm I'd received was similar in size and shape to my original. I mean, I thanked God for my replacement, despite needing months of gym work to strengthen it. Yes, size-wise, it was a splendid match, and Dr. Travers had done a remarkable job. It's just that, well, I don't know. I guess I'll miss that barbed wire tattoo circling my forearm, and all my ginger freckles too. My ex-wife used to love those silly brown spots. "Nobody's perfect," she'd say. If only she knew she could see me now. "The adoption process takes time," Dr. Travers said during our meeting a week later. "You ought to be home soon, and you'll adjust in a few weeks." "Will it ever feel like mine?" I said, flexing my stiff new fingers. "Of course," he said, cleaning his spectacles. "Besides, I'm only a phone call away if you need reassurance." Dr. Travers couldn't guarantee the pairing process would work, and I had to be prepared for rejection. He outlined likely symptoms in case the donor's hand didn't marry up with my nervous system. It was a long month in the BAGS Institute while I acclimated to my new limb. I followed the physio's guidelines for recovery and adhered to her plan, exercising as much as possible. The Institute's layout was straightforward. The building supported 8 levels, and most floors contained glass-partitioned offices. As far as I knew, the first floor contained the surgical theater and recovery wards, and the windowless ground floor housed the gym, storage units, and a boiler room. My first floor ward was empty, and I was alone most days, apart from Nurse Winter's morning welfare visits and meal deliveries, and Dr. Travers' weekly progress checks. I seldom encountered any other members of staff on any of the 8 floors, and met nobody in the gym, pool, or sauna facilities. Apart from intermittent security patrols, there were only a couple of employees engaged in gardening and exterior maintenance work. It was on my last day that we had a power cut, and the building lost its heat and lighting. I was exiting the gym at the time, cast into darkness by the occurrence, and strayed down an unfamiliar corridor. It was about 10 minutes before the green overhead emergency lights kicked in, by which time I found myself in one of the storage units. Somehow, I'd bypassed the security system in the outage and found myself lost in a maze of boxes, sealed containers, and cargo bays. I admit being disorientated by the experience. However, a sudden thought occurred. Until that moment, I'd never considered my trauma clone's whereabouts. Where was he? And what condition was he in? Was there accommodation here? Dr. Travers had led me to believe the Institute looked after and supported my trauma clone. So, why had he forbidden me to talk to him or make contact? I was pondering these questions as I meandered down a gentle sloped vehicle access ramp into the basement. As soon as I entered the lower corridors, I heard a low, stuttering hum of clicks and splutters. I thought it was a chattering mechanical turbine spluttering to life. I was wrong. The noise had an organic quality and enveloped me in slow pulses, like surf dissolving between fractured seashells on a distant shore. I stumbled onwards in the pale amber glow until I could advance no further. The light was emanating from translucent ceiling panels within a glass-walled room. Below it stood motionless figures connected to an upper gantry by a complicated loom of feeding tubes and electrical sensor cables. Life support systems, I imagined. The figures all shared similar characteristics, but differed somewhat in musculature, as if they were cuttings taken from a parent and propagated at staggered intervals. They were all naked and standing in equally spaced rows and columns, like life-sized chess pieces, awaiting a call to arms. There were at least 20 of them, all staring ahead with uncomprehending, glazed eyes and indifferent expressions. The wretched creatures were like a herd of cattle grazing in a pasture, oblivious to time and tide, and at the mercy of unknown assailants. I advanced towards the glass wall, and the closest figure's head turned to face me. It was obvious from his missing limb and sutured shoulder that we'd met before. There was a spark of recognition in those dilated pupils, like a dim, flickering light from a dying star. He edged forward as far as his tethers would allow, and raised his right arm in painful increments. All the while, those black pools of artificial existence held their intense, unflinching gaze. His fingertips reached to their full extent, like an unfurling leaf, and stroked the surface of the glass between us. I placed my left hand on the transparent surface and spread my fingers. Without so much as a blink, he mimicked my gesture. Our raised palms mirrored each other, either side of the shatterproof glazing. My hand flinched, as if gripped by its rightful owner, or some vestigial impulse dictated its movement. I hesitated for more than a minute as it twitched and writhed of its own accord. I lowered my eyes, tearing myself from his pitiable stare. 15 millimeters separated us, and yet we were worlds apart, as if we were distant relatives meeting in some parallel universe. I imagined some warmth in his palm, and supposed his instinctive gesture was meant to keep me there. He turned away and returned to his designated position amongst all my other clones. They were all looking at me now. My back spasmed with an intense, muscular shiver, as if I'd felt an icy blast. It was impossible to remain there with all those pairs of eyes judging me. I rubbed my hands together for warmth as I walked away, and I realized my clone wasn't born. He was created. He hadn't emerged from nature. The Institute reared and propagated him from cells which they'd nurtured to a mature specimen. That notion should have consoled me, but it didn't. Dr. Travers was adamant. The trauma clone didn't have a life as such. No family, no memories, and no real concept of a world outside. That was how he told me to frame the situation. "You're lucky," he said. "Not everyone has a chance to replace all their vital organs." I felt sick, looking down at my left arm afterwards, and recalled that awful stump on my doppelganger. Now, I'd encountered him in person. It felt as if I'd been caught red-handed, receiving stolen goods, and by chance met the lawful owner. "Don't worry about it," Dr. Travers said, placating my concerns. I couldn't be at peace with the notion, but I accepted he was right. How else could I live with myself, knowing that the trauma clone's only function was to donate spare parts? There was a guard of honor as I departed that evening, and I wondered what would happen if my trauma clone escaped. Would he survive in the outside world, or just succumb to nature's mercy, like a domesticated pet that's lost its natural instincts? As I walked across the deserted compound to my vehicle, I couldn't imagine returning here unless the worst happened. I supposed I'd only meet my trauma clone again if I was unlucky during my next tour in the Middle East. But who knows? They hadn't patched me up to stare at a PC all day.